Hello, my friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family. Thank you guys for joining us.
Hi, you guys. It's great to see everybody again.
Yes. So, how is everybody? Nuclear Quantum Lasers in the house. Cassie in the house. Nathan C. Nicole, thank you. Dirty Skies, California. Wow. Yeah. It's sad. That's what we really have when you look at it. And we see Max and Tuya, Douglas D, TC802. Good to see you guys. Good to see you guys. How is everybody doing out there? Ken, D. Jackson, Douglas D. Miss Abundantly Grateful.
Miss Nicole, hello. True Blue, Chronoraz Extraordinaire, Cannons, Crash Steel, TC802, Christopher. Hi, you guys. Great to see you all here.
Yeah, awesome to see you guys. And, last night's video had some really interesting stuff on it. As far as, that video coming out of Grants Pass. And, where are we right now? Where are we really? What's really going on? Because, as you know, there's no official pandemic still not declared. And, I guess we're not going to get one declared. Even though, if we look at it, it's spreading, and it's spreading very, very fast.
It is, and this is where, it's really a blessing to be able to come on with you guys and give you updates, because it is spreading. The numbers are still going up, not down, and it's important that we at least remain aware of what's going on.
Digna Ortiz, yeah, preppers are no longer crazy, and really everything that I've talked to friends and family about going back to the 80s, like I said to Cindy, I said, I can't think of anything that's been proven to be fake. Really, it's more quite the opposite. It's kind of like everything we always talked about has proven to actually be real. And I think it's very, very dangerous what's coming out with this whole thing about fake news. And somebody sent us a link to Dr. Drew Pinsky, who I don't follow like any of these mainstream stuff. I don't watch anything mainstream. I avoid it like the plague or like the coronavirus, right? Because it's so fake. It is fake. The mainstream narrative's so fake. And I thought we were in trouble when I started hear President Trump talking about fake news, and it's like, oh, watch. Because in this world, it's upside down. That which is true is labeled fake, and that which is fake is labeled true by the powers that be, as we learn more and more about, exactly who these powers that be are and how they control our world and how they have manufactured everything for a very long time.
Yeah, they have. They control all the media. They control all the information. And it's going to be based on money, whether they gain it, whether they lose it. That's how the information is going to roll. And they're definitely watching out for their dollars. So our job is to watch out for ourselves.
Yeah, most definitely. And, I know there's some people that right now, are following us because of the coverage on the virus situation. And yet there's others who've been with us a long time. If, I would encourage everybody to check this one out, because, this is what I did this morning. And, I think everybody needs to know how these things come into effect. And, this one's about how Israel was really brought into modern existence. And, how it was a Rothschild deal, and going back to 1871 with the Banking Act, and going back to 1871 with Albert Pike talking about 3 world wars and why they got to be, you recognize that everything's scripted, and it's scripted sometimes from way, way long ago.
Yeah, it is. And then, they kind of write the playbook, and then they fill in the blanks where as needed, and these days I really strongly feel that the EMF and the AI is a big part of how they pull this stuff together.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a lot to cover here. One of the biggest things is we look right here and we check out the cases now. You see South Korea flying up because they're testing. 4,335. Look at Italy, 2,036. 1,500 in Iran, 1,501. And again, these are official numbers. They're not really the real numbers. What is the real numbers? Well, we're going to take a look at one source that's telling us that Iran has a massive amount of cases, massive going on right now. 705 others still, 274 Japan, 191 France, and 159 Germany, and 120 Spain. So we see Europe is growing. And people had talked about the ACE2 receptors, and was this going to not be spreading in Europe because perhaps it's really truly a bioweapon that was intended to be delivered to Asia. But while the severity seems to be it's definitely in the elderly. It's taking out a lot of the elderly. We've seen that since day one, but it is affecting people, of every background. And perhaps its effectiveness more has to do with the frequencies around you and all sorts of pollution of different types that you are exposed to, including electromagnetic pollution, if you guys know what I mean. We see 100 now breaking through in the U.S., and sources are saying hang on to your hats in the U.S. It'll probably get a lot of people sick, like being on a roller coaster ride with what's going to come out in the next couple of days, because they're going to actually start to test some. It's just, this has been in so many ways a joke from the start with the WHO. We've covered that. We talked about the bonds and why they're not going to declare a pandemic. They moved so glacially, and everybody could see right through it. I think most people could see. Well, those in this community could see.
Yeah, we can see. And they've lined it up really nice, very deliberate, where they make us so we have to work 60, 70 hours a week, and we don't have a lot of time to take care of ourselves. And then they put in all this technology to make things easier, which actually is more EMF on the system. So slowly but surely breaking down our immune systems to make this easy for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's been going on for decades and decades and decades. So when you look at some of these numbers, you got to wonder why, if there's any sort of legitimacy to them, why would Singapore, Hong Kong, Thailand, why would they be so low? They're either completely covering up with, and Malaysia, are they totally covering up the numbers there and lying more than other countries? Or is there some other vector going on that we don't understand yet? Is this truly being spread the way they say it is? Or is it being spread by different means? How could we trust them in the first place? How could we trust any of the official sources, really, in the first place? Why? Why is it going so crazy in Italy and Iran when other countries that should have had more spread don't, such as Japan, Singapore, Hong Kong, Thailand, Taiwan, Malaysia? Now, if it was also geared towards the Asian race, then you would expect a lot higher numbers there, as opposed to in Iran and Italy. So there's something else going on here, totally, and I think maybe we're all kind of missing a piece of this right now, in this bigger picture that we see going on. And when you look at this, you see Europe is getting covered really quick. So is the Middle East, and this needs to be a lot bigger from what we're seeing. And we had talked about that. How long until Europe's completely covered? Let's see what the real impact is, because we've talked about Agenda 21, Agenda 2030. We've talked about Deagle, and those numbers on Deagle. We've talked about the art of war, because the art of war is something that is studied in the East and studied over here as well. Anybody going into any sort of military training should read The Art of War. And one of the things you do is, you feign strength when you're weak, you feign weakness when you're strong.
Grizzly, thank you. Rawr. I don't want to break anybody's eardrums.
Grizzly says, rawr. We love Grizzly.
We do.
Thank you for your support. We love you guys too. Stay safe out there. Whether, some people think it's all a hoax. There's tons of people, just screaming this is a complete hoax. Yes. Yeah. Evolutionary Energy Arts t-shirts and merchandise. Yeah. God, we really should. Maybe I'll ask Cindy to do it because
talk to the secretary. Maybe she'll do it.
she'll set it up. That wouldn't be a bad idea. Natasha says Vancouver's done. There's Washington, and obviously they neighbor each other. Washington, it's exploding, but how much of it's in that one home where people have gotten sick. Let's just take a look over. There's so much I want to talk about. This is true. I think this is true. Coronavirus may have spread. That was weird. Everything went dark and jumped. Where'd it go? They just took it off. Did you see that?
What?
Somebody just X'd that article off on me.
Wow. I believe it.
Did you guys catch that? Somebody took control of the trigger here. I didn't do that. And they X'd it off. Wow. That's, we are monitored all the time, guys. Yeah, it is. Optimists, we know who it is, and we know they control governments across the globe, all sorts of governments. Very few governments that aren't controlled by them. So the article was going to talk about the fact that it was probably spreading for the last 6 weeks at least in the U.S. And that's what the article was talking about, is that it's been here for probably at least 6 weeks. And, meanwhile, we had President Trump say, hey, look at our numbers. There's only 15. Yeah, you didn't test anybody. You tested 400. And, that, and the way the WHO was moving so slow, it's most definitely all part of the bigger scenario that we see unraveling. So it's been here for quite a while. And let me jump way over here. We'll just cover these because I did these before. You showed these maybe about a week ago. So the CDC estimates from October 1st through February 22nd, 2020, there's been anywhere between 32 and 45 million flu illnesses, which have resulted in 14 million to 21 million flu medical visits, 310,000 to 560,000 flu hospitalizations, and 18 to 46,000 flu deaths. That's a big range. You would think they would know that a little bit better. All the links are there as always, guys, unless somebody scrubs them. And going back to the CDC. Now, how does that compare to other years? Well, this was the breakdown. And of course, this year is not as up to date. But basically, when this was put out, this is the same numbers I saw a week ago. So they're not updating this as we go. 35 million is what they estimated so far this year. Last year was 45 million. So last year, when you look at it, it was a pretty bad year. You could see, at 2011, we only had 9 million. 21, 34, 30, 30, 24, 29, and then 45. Last year was bad. And this year, probably worse. So as far as regular flu. But there again, since they haven't been testing for this particular virus, how do we know? We really don't. And this is talking about a Hong Kong woman's pet dog testing positive. Again, it can be in animals as well. That's what we are seeing. Animals can be carriers as well.
Right, exactly. And it's like the mainstream, we kind of know by now, if you're in this group, that whatever mainstream is saying, it's usually opposite. And we were watching mainstream saying, oh, there's nothing to see here, nothing to worry about here, which automatically makes me turn right back around and question exactly what's going on.
Okay, so let's have a little levity here. This is a new way of shaking hands in a post-coronavirus world. So just in case you guys know, this is what we do now. We don't shake hands. This is how we greet. Hey, how's it going? Oh, good. Yeah, there you go. We're all going to be walking around with our masks on, and this is how we say hi to everybody. Hey, what's up? There you go. And this is out of flu trackers. So you have Morocco announcing a first case. Australia now has 9 confirmed cases. Well, New South Wales does. India, an Italian tourist in Jaipur, test positive. And then Canada, the regional municipality of York reports 5th positive cases. It's obviously expanding pretty quick. In the Snohomish County cases, you had a female in her 40s currently hospitalized, underlying health conditions. How many people have underlying health conditions, though? You know, in this world, how many people, have had, like me with Lyme's disease, or how many people have hypertension? We know, the majority of the population's overweight, for one. You could go through all sorts of stuff, and when you get down to it, I think the majority of the population has some sort of underlying health condition, especially if we are talking, if you're in middle age or older. So updated case information, previously announced male in his 40s, hospitalized, Evergreen Health in Kirkland has died. The patient was a Snohomish County resident. And then you had original case in January, fully recovered. The original case, student at Jackson High School, announced Friday, isolating at home. This is Washington State is leading right now, the nation. Here you see Steve Lookner is quoting that we have another case in San Mateo County of unknown origin. They don't know where it came from. It could be just what's in the sky every day. Who knows? We really don't know. That's the thing. And that's what I was wondering when I'm thinking about Iran and Italy. There's some other vector that we're, missing here because, certainly I don't think that China, the number one travel hub for China is Italy or Iran. It doesn't sound likely. It sounds like there'd be a lot more people, going into Russia, with that big border, going, down into Thailand for, vacations and things like that. It just doesn't make any sense. Australian health officials are meeting today to consider additional measures to stop the spread of the CV, including a ban on large gatherings, which we're getting all over the place.
Yeah, and Henry says, I still see flights. What about people traveling to other states and infected people coming from Mexico-Canadian border? Market is propped back up. I did see that about the market. That's really curious. And yeah, and they are going to let people cross the borders and so on and so forth for whatever their agenda is. It's going to help them reach their end goal, whatever that might be. So again, it lies back into us to minimize our exposure as much as possible and wash your hands, take good care of your immune system. No sugar. Sugar is that's the worst thing you could eat right now.
And so this is saying that the COVID is, perhaps it is a racist virus, so to speak, but don't relax just yet. And it's getting into exactly what we're talking about, those ACE2 receptors and stuff. But what we're seeing right now with the spread is not necessarily pointing to what so many people were originally thinking. And let me go over here. And here we go. FEMA is prepping, so we'll probably hear something out of FEMA soon. Multiple sources are talking about FEMA prepping for possible coronavirus emergency declaration. And what's that going to look like? So like what Henry was talking about, at some time, we might say there's no travel to Washington State. If Washington keeps exploding, it's possible it is possible that we could get some states on lockdown. I mean, look at China. That's basically what they had, with certain regions on lockdown, others not. So that is something, to keep in mind. And Mexico has more cases. It doesn't have anywhere close to what the U.S. does. Canada's showing 27 right now. If we go down to Mexico, they're showing 5, and we're showing 100 now, which is probably going to jump tenfold quick as we get into this. So yeah, FEMA getting ready for a declaration. We should probably hear something from them soon. And this is out of the New York Post as well. So we'll see what type of measures they put in as well. And it's interesting because, the emergency declarations are usually used following natural disasters, hurricanes, things like that, which we've seen a number of times. But they can be used to help manage infectious disease outbreaks as well. So, we will keep an eye and see what they have planned, how they're going to handle this as we move forward. And, I mean, this is huge. This is what I was talking about. When we're talking about, well, it's just spreading. And there were so many people that were saying it's just spreading in China. It's just going to affect people of that background. But here you see Europe sees a 44% increase in a single day. So this is Hal Turner. Number of cases has shot up overnight, going from 1,520 yesterday to 2,199 today, a 44% rise. Yep, 44% in a single day. So, as it says here, as word gets out about this horrifying spread of this deadly disease, people all over Europe will realize they'll probably be quarantined for 6 to 8 weeks and that they need food. So this is going to result in panic buying, and that's what the stock market was bouncing upwards because of. I mean, people are panic buying right now. That's what's going on right now. And they're doing it while they can. I mean, now we're seeing what we showed a few days ago in California. We're seeing that in New York. We're seeing that everywhere now.
Yeah, and usually, hopefully if you're part of this group in this chat, we've already done our panic buying, so we're good.
Yeah, exactly. And so I got some chickpeas all cooked and going to be making some homemade hummus. Which we've already had a bowl of fresh veggie soup that we did, and we had a couple ripe mangoes, which maybe going forward we'll be missing things like mangoes and pineapples. Oh, but I
planted a pineapple because Dave from the UK, he taught me how to plant a pineapple. So I did that, and it's still alive and it's growing.
Yes. There we go. But yeah, we will definitely have to have it in some sort of greenhouse or something to keep it warm
and 2
here.
Avocados. I got 2 avocado trees actually cracked and started.
She's doing good, guys. She's on top of this. Thank you, Dave in the UK, for being such a good coach. We love you, brother. So this is out of IntelliHub, and this is talking about what we were talking about yesterday. Hundreds of troops head into Northern California through Southern Oregon. Busloads of U.S. Army soldiers were captured on video Saturday as they traveled in a convoy southbound through Grants Pass, Oregon, before heading into Northern California, where, California, well, we have Washington leading with deaths, but California has the most cases. So, it's definitely more prevalent right now on the West Coast, but that's only because of what we know. And, when you look at population density, the East Coast is far more population dense. But still, this is interesting. So there's 3 segments of videos here, and we showed one of them last night there with these guys coming on in that they're quoting, and then they're also making note of Trader Joe's, and look at how empty the shelves are. And this is also talking about Vacaville, California, as a potential location for martial law. That's what this person's quoting here. And this is the one that wrote this particular article here. So all the links are there for you guys. This is curious. I mean, was this legit? I'm still up in the air on it, but I guess probably. So now this is Heshmat Alavi, and this is big. 60,000 people across Iran have been diagnosed with the coronavirus. According to the regime's deputy health minister in remarks made in an interview with state TV. So this proves that the regime has been lying to keep a lid on this. That's huge. 60,000 people in Iran. What do you guys make of that?
That's a lot of people. And see, these are the kind of things that I think we're going to see. One thing that I am really curious about is they talk about the breakdown of supply chains. And even though I've seen pictures of empty shelves, we've seen two Costco's. I think one in California, and where was the other one that had people that were all lined up? I'm kind of curious to watch.
Oh, the other one was in New York.
Oh, okay, in New York. So I'm really curious.
Coast to coast.
Coast to coast. So I'm really curious to see how these things happen on the supply chains.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's going to break down some, that's for sure. It's pretty wild what we're seeing. So 60,000 is what he's saying. That the Iranian deputy health minister acknowledges. That's huge. That's huge right there. 60,000. So when we look at that, okay, and what do we see here? 1,500. So, what's the reality? And what's the reality here in the U.S. as well? But why is Iran getting hit so hard? I'm really wondering that. Along with Italy, there's something else in all this, and we have this, which is what we saw, and it's mass. There's a whole bunch of mass graves that are super shallow that they've dug. Look how shallow these are. You're just basically gonna cover them right over, in Iran. So you see mass graves in Iran. That they're just bringing people into, and it's not just right there. It's like a whole field of them, that they're putting people in. And what we saw happening in China, as far as the crematoriums, won't happen in Iran, and the reason is it's against Islamic law. So in Islam, the body goes into a grave. It has to be buried. Cremation is strictly forbidden in Islam. So that changes things in those countries that are, Islamic dominated, as far as that goes. So you got to wonder too. I mean, will that result in worse problems down the line?
More spread? It might. It might. Thank you, Grizzly, so much. Grizzly says they're saying that wearing masks is like the difference between waterproof and water resistant. The masks basically make you water resistant. Thank you for that information so much, and your support. You're just super fun, Grizzly. I know it.
Most definitely. And it's sad to see this stuff, but so if those numbers are right, and we know that the Chinese numbers are way off. They're showing 80,000. If Iran already has 60, so is that 800? Is that like 2 million, 3 million, 4 million? We don't know. I wonder. We don't even really hear a whole heck of a lot coming out of it anymore. As attention has now started to spread to other places, we know that they're trying to nudge people back to work, and a lot of people don't want to go back to work. And if you look at the red blob, you see China's just about completely covered. So, when will we ever know the full scope of what's happening right now? Look at this over, and remember Russia closed their border like quick as well with China. That's a big border. I think only the I think I'm right when saying that only the Canadian border with the U.S. is bigger. 24 people hospitalized, 83 quarantined after contact with a single patient in Moscow. A single patient. So you got 24 people hospitalized after contact with one person. One person, that's, we're talking super spread. This thing is really, really spreading. And, again, what's on top of their buildings? What's sending out signals over there? I don't know. I would imagine they probably have the same technologies, maybe. I don't know. I haven't really researched that. But you got to wonder, and I'm curious to see how the spread is in places that are very, very rural, where there's, maybe no Wi-Fi available, maybe no internet available. What will the spread be like out there as opposed to in the middle of cities that are just bathing in all this electromagnetic frequencies? So here we see something to keep in mind in the coming couple of weeks. We believe the modeling estimates from case data and from phylogeodynamics that the epidemic doubling time is about 7 days. So it doubles in 7 days. So after 1 week, 100's going to go to 200. After another, it's going to go to 400. It's going to go to 800. So again, and also, just recognize that so few have been tested. Here you see Sonoma County resident test positive. County declares state of emergency. There's been a lot of those. A lot of different places are declaring a state of emergency, and you got 250 people being monitored for the CV in Arizona as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on, and I see sometimes I see you guys putting information in the chat as far as health. Okay, Chedish health is concerned, and like things that you can do, add to your daily regimen to make your immune system a little stronger. Chedish culture has been putting some of that information in, and they say add moringa tea to your daily diet, and that's one of the things that we have the freedom to do right now. Even though we're all different, I do encourage you guys to do your research before you take on any herbal remedy of any kind. I am grateful that we can pass that information back and forth through chat, and I do appreciate it a lot.
As we're sipping on some loose leaf jasmine tea that we got, and that reminds me that I have to get some more while we can. Yes. We love you too, Violet Lotus, and so good to see you guys. There's so many states of emergency going on. Ultimately we know when's it going to happen. When are we going to be put on lockdown? Maybe we have another week or two here. I don't know, we'll see. I think it's going to come in segments. I think you're going to see certain states on lockdown. Perhaps Washington, California, perhaps leading the way, but you never know. I mean, look at Iran, with the explosion. And if the, deputy minister just admitted to 60,000 cases so quick, why did it explode so fast there? And so many unanswered questions that we're all speculating on really right now. So while we can, we're most definitely should be, doing our final preps and then, having as little contact with the rest of civilization as possible, as we, are basically all trying to isolate ourselves because we don't want to really spread stuff. Mm-hmm. I mean, look at that in Russia. One person sent 24 others to the hospital. So, this thing definitely appears as if it's man-made. There's way too much going on here. This is not natural. There's no way in the world this is a natural occurrence. And all the different things we've seen too with all these simulations. So many people called this thing coming before it came. There was an awful lot of people that knew about it. An awful lot. Breaking, San Antonio declares health emergency, orders CV evacuees to stay in quarantine. And in case you didn't see, the officials released a person that had it. And what they do, they went to the mall to get a hamburger. And then they realized that, oops, we released the wrong person. And how many people did that person just go infect as well, you know. So here we see our zero hedge. Trump says U.S. may tighten travel restrictions as death toll climbs to 6. Live updates. So the toll's at 6, all in Washington, and it has 18 cases. 2 new cases confirmed in Tampa Bay. We talked about, I talked to a friend. I told him, one of my dearest friends said, there was a Sarasota case, and then she said to me, well, there's 2 actually, because they got a notification of it. You see the first case in New Hampshire, Santa Clara County, 2 more cases. It brings you to 9. Gottlieb, right, warns U.S. cases likely in the low thousands. Why would you want to, listen to this guy? Well, because he works for Big Pharma now, and he used to be the head of the FDA, So, yeah, he knows, and if he's saying, so what's his job now? His job is to basically, sow seeds. They're letting us know. The U.S., we probably, they're saying low thousands. Maybe it's in the tens of thousands already. Maybe it's at 60,000 like Iran right now, but we don't see the mass graves. At least I don't know if anybody's saying that here. Illinois announces 4th case. And Boris Johnson says a very significant expansion of the virus is clearly in the cards. Italian death toll goes from 18 to 52, and obviously the cases are over 2,000 there now. BMW tells 150 to quarantine after Munich employee infected. Algeria has 5 now. Senegal becomes the second sub-Saharan country to confirm the virus. Tedros, this is the head of the WHO, virus is the common enemy of humanity, so don't focus the blame. Yeah, because they still haven't declared pandemic, and they've been so lax that obviously I think a lot of people are going to throw a lot of blame the WHO's way. Jordan, first 2 cases, French toll revised to 3, total cases climbed to 191. Tunisia reports first case, UK 40 now. OECD warns global growth could fall by half. And Indonesia reports first case. Progress is being made towards a vaccine since they had a heads up a long time ago, obviously, from what we've read. Cuomo says New York expects more cases, of course. India, 2 more cases. The official death toll hits 66 in Iran. And the EU confirms 38 deaths across 18 member nations. 2 Amazon employees test positive in Milan. How many packages did they touch? And the virus is now in 8 states: Washington, California, Illinois, Rhode Island, tiny little Rhode Island, New York, Florida, Oregon, and New Hampshire. San Antonio virus patient rehospitalized after they let them go. And China warns it could face locust invasion. So, welcome to the end times.
Well, yeah, I mean, I see a few things are kind of lining up here, and that not that it makes things fun or anything like that. I'm not saying it's fun, but it does indicate a time to pay attention, and I don't see anything wrong with that. And even if people are doubtful that this is real, if they think it's a psyop, that's fine and everything. But I think as long as the cases are going up, not down, and as long as these headlines keep changing like fluid, like water, I believe Michael and I, we're going to continue to cover it until we understand exactly what's going on. Because the truth is, nobody really knows. It's pretty vague, and all the indicators point that it's something slightly sinister. That's my opinion.
I think that's a lot of people's opinion for sure. And yeah, so Hard Truth Hall is bringing up the BG name, and a lot of it, that's been on a lot of people's minds there. So yeah, so much there, so much going on. It's pretty much everywhere at this point. Yeah, that would be a fair statement. Yeah, as you see, Washington State says coronavirus death toll rises to 6. And then this is a letter from Shanghai that was sent to Hal Turner's show. And, we still, as, we are all probably running into people that say this is absolute BS and there's nothing really big happening. More people die from the flu every year, and et cetera, et cetera. And yeah, we don't know exactly when you get down to it, because there's been so little testing done, how many have perished because of the coronavirus and how many have perished because of the flu. As we know, so little testing done, we have no way of knowing. But this is just what somebody experienced in China. And so they say, I'm splitting at the seams. When the news first started coming out about the coronavirus in China, it wasn't just numbers. The virus was reported to us as the horror stories were happening, not a warning, not a precautionary article on what to do if things go bad. In less than 48 hours, their life went completely from normal to being afraid to open my front door. I'd like to pause here and actually have you imagine what it would be like to be that afraid. Please note that this was not a scare tactic. It was the reality of the coronavirus playing out right in front of our eyes. We had no time to doubt, to consider politics. We didn't have the information at the time for what safety measures to take. We knew that there was a new disease, no cure, and more people were dying every single day. And what should have been the most festive time of the year became a nightmare no one could wake up from. No one could believe that things were getting so severe and escalating so quickly. And they weren't even in Wuhan. Stories of entire families being wiped out. Stories of people actually starving to death due to home quarantine. Stories of people committing suicide because hospitals had no room for them, and they'd rather die than infect their loved ones. These stories aren't being told by the media. We don't hear the stories of people lining up for 8+ hours outside hospitals only to become too weak to stand in line any longer and went home to die, or to infect their loved ones and their families who also died without medical care and couldn't even end up being part of the statistics. Fear-driven animal abuse, suicide photos, people chasing after ambulances with no chance to say goodbye to a deceased loved one as they were incinerated, xenophobic judgments and racist responses, all on top of the basic hell that an epidemic brings. This is our everyday. So when I see articles about how the coronavirus is nothing to worry about, how it isn't as dangerous as the flu, how America only has 1 death, so clearly the virus isn't deadly, do you know how much hurt I hurt for the people that have no family left? I hurt for all the medical professionals who are putting aside their entire lives to save as many people as they can. I can hurt for the people that never got a chance to get diagnosed. I hurt for those who died in vain because I filter my updates so they cause the least amount of Chinese racism possible while stating the reality of how terrifying things have been here, because I have a choice to come back to the States as an American at the cost of abandoning my loved ones and my people behind, because the Chinese people are just as much my people as are Americans. Yet I've always been told to choose which I'm more loyal to. China is underreporting statistics in order to curb panic, and that's an ethical issue in itself. But it should also show us how things are worse than the media is making out to be. Otherwise, they wouldn't feel the need to do that in the first place. Both countries are guilty of misinformation and shortcomings in the face of this epidemic, but a cyclical game of who's worse won't get us anywhere. I read the tragedies of the virus in China by the day, and with the time difference, catch the American news by night. The contrast is appalling. The virus isn't going to bring forth the apocalypse or the end of the world, but that doesn't mean that it isn't something that also deserves our attention. It has spread all over the globe in a matter of 2 months, and we shouldn't underestimate its destructive power. As for the many comparing it to the flu, no one's saying the flu isn't dangerous too, but the dangers associated with the flu do not negate the dangers of the virus either, the coronavirus. We have protocols and treatment plans in place for the flu. We have consistent information about the flu over years of testing and statistics. Meanwhile, the coronavirus is infecting thousands while we're still trying to figure out what it even is, how to fight it, and how to prevent it. So I don't care about whether the U.S. is trying to scare you into buying hand sanitizer, and I'll even stand with you against the fearmongers and clickbait articles, but have some respect and realize just how lucky you are that you even have this kind of warning. So what's your take on that?
I've always been saying that how grateful I am that we do have this warning and we have time to boost our immune systems and talk to people about it. So if it comes out to be absolutely nothing, that's wonderful. That's like the best thing on the planet. But from all indicators, it's not going to turn out that way.
No, it's already changing everything. And, this is what happens whenever we have a major event. And this is a major event. Some of the things in the past, maybe they were blown out of proportion, and we've seen that. And maybe that's part of this too. Maybe they were purposely blown out of proportion so that when something like this happens, everybody's like thinking it's crying wolf, but it's not, And so I think, obviously we have to err on the side of caution. But what I was going to say is, just like when 9/11 happened, the world changed after. Everything changed. So the world's going to change after this. It's not going to be the same world that we had. We need to be aware and to make sure that these powers that be don't take advantage of us because of this and take more of our rights away from us. That's one of the biggest things that I'm thinking about in the name of, safety and the greater good. We already have them spying on us 24/7, 365. Everything we've ever done is completely recorded. And, it's going to be another thing that will institute greater controls, greater restrictions, greater consolidation of power, even more firmly into the hands of the exceedingly few, the elites that we talk about. And, that's one of the things that, to me, is one of the things that we have to watch and make sure doesn't happen.
Right. We want to maintain what we have here. And I think a really good way of doing that, Rosemary said, it's just something as super simple as washing your hands. Wash them, wash them, wash them. Fanatical hand washing. My cousin she's a ER nurse for like 20 years. She managed to avoid the flu every year. All she did was wash her hands.
Yeah, when I first met her, she wouldn't shake my hand or give me a hug. Yeah.
She's brutal.
She's like, I don't do that.
Yeah.
So, that's one of the things that I'm very aware of, is that every time we have something major, we lose more and more of our rights. And that's a big part of this. And the other thing, too, is obviously the first thing when they talk about this is the need for a vaccine, the need for a vaccine, the need for a vaccine. And, just watch the stocks. Some companies are getting decimated because of this already, and then some are going to see their value increase exponentially through this as well. So we always follow the money flow as well, because money is how we are controlled in this society. Money is a control grid in and of itself, and that's a big part of it as well. What's that?
Somebody wrote in there that vaccines saved you. I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't think they know what's in the vaccine. It's all right.
So this is out of Florida, yeah. And so Florida's just showing over here, confirmed 2. And they have 8 pending testing results. Number of negative, 15 so far. Number of people under public health monitoring, 184. Every state's going to be a little bit different. Every country's going to be a little bit different. And this is from the CDC, and this is what they're saying, and we know this is worthless. Total cases 43. Total hospitalized 17. Total deaths 2. I mean, it's not even up to date as far as the numbers. Again, I think we're getting aware of the fact. I mean, when you go for news and you want to get what's happening, we don't go mainstream. We don't even go and look at the CDC or the FDA or the WHO's sites. It's the world we live in. We look elsewhere to find really what's happening.
Yeah, also going within, listening to your heart, listening to your soul. Common sense, like go back in history and see, has our mainstream media or government ever lied to us? That's your first indicator.
Most definitely. And over here now we see panic buying sends Dow to best point gain ever on the hopes of intervention. So yeah, we have panic buying going on now, big time. And so yeah, you're going to get a lot of these. You're going to get wild radical swings. I've talked about wild radical swings when it comes to weather, extreme cold, extreme hot, extreme storms. Well, it's going to be the same thing fiscally right now as well because of everything that's going on. So, you got a little bit of an upswing. Is it overall going to trend downward? You bet you. Everything's grinding to a halt. So, but at the same time, yeah, there's going to be opportunities. And, whoever comes out with the vaccine, that's going to be a very rich company. Very, very rich. And over here we see mayor declares health emergency after the coronavirus patient went to the North Star Mall, So city of San Antonio has declared a local state of disaster after an evacuee from China who tested weekly positive for the CV following her release from quarantine visited North Star Mall before returning to isolation. So there are those that think that this was, I've seen a lot of people comment saying that they think that was done on purpose as well. And here you see grammar school students test positive. Mount Vernon in Middlesex is what we're looking at here. And the UK is braced for a big increase coming as well. And this was just bizarre because I was not able to see anything else that was a confirmation. But what it was showing was tanks supposedly crossing from China into Taiwan, and it was pulled off of Taiwanese social media. And, I couldn't find any verification. This, along with all the rest of the links, will be there as always, because when you think about it, I would think that something could happen a little bit farther into this, as far as potential conflict. Obviously, we've been looking at Turkey and Syria and Russia, and wondering, how is that going to escalate and everything. But there again, the art of war. Sun Tzu's The Art of War. Again, when you're strong, feign weakness, and vice versa. And as we talked about with David Devine and also Christian Ice Age farmers, always doing a great job talking about the food shortages. Let's not forget about that in the first place. I mean, there's rushes going on right now to buy up what's in the stores. Everybody's scrambling now to get some, long-term supplies. But with everything we've seen from a weather standpoint and all the crop losses globally, and let's not forget about the locust plague that is completely biblical, obviously there's going to be massive food shortages going on across the globe as well. And so there's so much going on right now.
Yeah, and we don't need to act out of panic. That's the beautiful thing about being able to come on here and talk with you guys, because a lot of us, we still have time to order. We still have time to order and start our plants and start growing. And, if there's some way we squeak by this time, I think we'll definitely be ready for next time. But it's like that God hammer, when something goes on, you get like a little knock at your door. And then if you don't pay attention, the knock is a little bit harder. And then if you still don't pay attention, you get whacked super hard by the God hammer. So I really feel like this is like probably like a gentle to medium tap. And we're definitely paying attention, starting growing stuff and all that good stuff.
So this is a little bit of a study that was done. And, almost everybody has cell phones. 95% of American adults use cell phones. But even just regular, before we go to FIVEG, they still put out radiation. And there's been studies that show that using cell phones and getting the exposure most definitely can cause sickness. And so clear evidence of tumors in the hearts of male rats. The tumors were malignant schwannomas. Some evidence of tumors in the brains of male rats, and those were malignant gliomas. And some evidence of tumors in the adrenal glands of male rats as well. And so that's just regular cell phone usage without taking FIVE into consideration. And then this is out of emfscientist.com and talking about the urgent need to protect everything from FIVEG. And it's escalating health risks. And is it any wonder, perhaps, that we'll see all sorts of things popping up out of the woodwork? Because everything, all life is based on different frequencies. If we talk to Tesla, who was as brilliant a person to come along in the last several hundred years as we've seen, he said the mysteries of the universe, it's all about frequency. It's all about vibration and wavelength. This is a brilliant man. So what do you think he would think about this? And, there's an appeal here to the United Nations Environment Program. And this was sent to the head of WHO as well. You could sign the appeal, and the link will be there for you guys as well, on the live dashboard. Are we seeing the beginning of really too much different frequencies hitting us, making us so much more susceptible to maybe things that wouldn't really normally be as deadly?
Right. And we do have this thing called a biofield, and it can get into your 3D dense body and create problems. And with these frequencies, they come in and they disrupt that biofield that you have. That's basically where we are plasma, and we have our energy body and then our 3D body. And whenever we have a trauma, that trauma sticks in our energy field. And it's like if you're rolling like a taco or something, and you get a rock in the taco and you keep rolling it, you see a lump there. And that lump can get in your energy field and disrupt the information coming into the energy field, which can cause a problem on your body. And I do believe with these frequencies, they are coming in there and directly interrupting the information that's coming into our 3D bodies and keeping us healthy. I think, they're not stupid. They did this by design. They know exactly what they're doing and how to break down our immune system.
Yeah. So this is another thing to consider. And here's one benefit. NASA images show China pollution clear. Wow. Because, pollution in China is some of the worst in the globe, as most of you guys probably recognize. And so it really, look at the change. There's no pollution there. So did China really shut down, or was that all just cameras and ghost town, the ghost cities and stuff? Well, this would kind of indicate that China did shut down. And when we think about the bigger picture as well, the planet is under attack. The planet is under attack by these very greedy entities that control all the resources and, view everybody as basically cattle of sorts, sheeple. And, there's been so much disregard for the health of the planet, and we've seen so many mass die-offs of everything you could think of in the oceans and the skies, on the land. It's just a travesty. And, the world needs a reset in a positive way. We need to change our ways and start to live in harmony with the earth instead of against it. And now I'm not talking about, Al Gore's carbon taxes and things like that. They always throw out misdirection, just like, Charles Darwin's Origin of a Species. And Darwin was a 33rd degree Mason as well. While things do evolve, of course, then you have the official sources come out with something that's not exactly true. It has some essence of the truth, but not officially, not completely true. That's what we always get. We always get them giving us, there might be 90% truth with 10% lies, but it changes the way we perceive things. And this is off the Devil's Playground channel. And this young lady served in the military, and she is a brave lady. I encourage you guys to just listen to her. She's talking about some things that go on, and talking about what we'll probably be faced with as far as, will we have to take a V is it going to be something that there's going to be no choice? You just have to do it. And what's in there? Because there's nasty stuff in some of these things. Nasty, nasty, nasty. So please check it out. The link is there as well. This is the Devil's Playground channel. And, I'm sure you guys are pretty aware of this. But, she's definitely a brave girl to talk about this, because this seems to be the one thing that they don't want you talking about more than anything.
Yeah, I mean, if there's like one thing we could get in trouble for, it's what she's talking about here. So, and she knows her stuff too. It's not like she rolled out of bed and read a couple books. No, she's definitely hands-on, knows her information, can explain it to where it makes sense to you. And that way, at least, if you have the information for yourself, you can make, a better decision for what's best for you and your family.
Most definitely. And I see so many people that are awake. I know there was a comment in there earlier about somebody whose, child just went and got a V, and they were like putting the little crying emoticon on there, because people that are awake understand. But, see, this is the, this is the official mindset that they will not allow us to deviate from. If that happens, then you get really ostracized. And, you could see so many cases of that, from Zero Hedge to Mike Adams to, gosh, there's just so many of them that have been, David Icke, he's banned in Australia. You want to talk about getting banned quick, That's one of the things. And so it lets you know that that's a big, huge part of the program. That's most definitely a big part of the plan and the program. So, that's one of the things that we're going to have to stand up en masse and just say no about. So, my friends, as always, thank you for your support on Ko-Fi and Patreon. No fear, just be prepared. I hope you guys are good to go and prepared and ready to ride out this roller coaster and come out on the other side a lot stronger than ever.
And you will. Stronger, smarter, better, faster. Thanks, you guys, for showing up. God bless and namaste.
Yes, guys. God bless and namaste.